Diesel is waiting to be coupled to a truck. He is collecting supplies for the building site. There are 3 trucks. One is full of bricks, one is full of timber, and one is full of bananas. Thomas wants to play a trick on Diesel. Can you help him? One of these trucks is the wrong truck to take to the building site. Do you know which one it is? Is it the truck full of bricks? No. Bricks are very useful for building. They are used to build walls. If Thomas gave Diesel the truck full of bricks, he would not be playing a trick. What about the truck full of timber? Is that the wrong truck to take to the building site? No. Timber is very useful too. It is used for building roofs. Timber is not right for playing a trick on Diesel either. What about the truck full of bananas? Can you build with bananas? No. Bananas are perfect for playing a trick on Diesel. They are no good for building at all. Although they are very nice to eat. Thomas and Percy were having great fun. Next, Thomas and Percy had to go to the smelter's yard. They were going to collect some steel girders. But when they puffed into the yard, they saw something that was very, very frightening. It was Diesel 10. Diesel 10 was big and strong, and he had a crunching, crushing claw. Thomas and Percy watched. The giant claw crushed the iron and steel. Thomas and Percy shivered. They thought Diesel 10 looked very scary. Let's come back when Diesel 10's not here, Thomas puffed nervously, and they raced away. That evening, Thomas and Percy were puffing happily back to the sheds. They couldn't wait to rest their wheels and talk to their friends about the day's adventures. But as they puffed home, they were very surprised. Look, the bridge isn't painted, puffed Percy. And the airport is only half finished, wheezed Thomas. And when they arrived at Tidmouth Sheds, they discovered that they had been knocked down. Cinders and ashes, cried Thomas. What's happened to our sheds? Building the new ones was our important job, oiled Diesel, but we were delayed, so we couldn't finish it. And bananas are no good for building sheds, the Fat Controller added. The steam engines were cross with the diesel engines. The diesels had ruined their home. But Thomas was sad. He knew it was his fault. Now where will we sleep? Moaned Henry. They soon found out. The engines puffed across the island. That night, they each had to sleep somewhere else. James had to stay at the dirty, dusty coaling plant. I'll never stay shiny here, moaned James. Edward had to stay at the quarry. Oh, look, a stinky steamy, oiled Diesel. Percy and Henry had to stay at the smelter's yard. I don't like it here, moaned Henry. If I break down, they might scrap me by mistake. and poor Gordon had to sleep under a tent. The indignity, he huffed. Only Toby was warm and snug in his cosy shed. He would have gladly shared his home with the other engines, but it was much too small. Thomas felt bad. There were lots of jobs that hadn't been finished, and it was all his fault. Now he had to stay at Knapford's sheds with Emily. I only wanted to teach those diesels to behave, moaned Thomas. Be quiet and go to sleep, Emily huffed. Emily didn't like sharing her shed. She was used to peace and quiet. Don't worry, puffed Thomas. We can fix everything. I'm sure I'll be back in Tidmouth sheds tomorrow. But that night, a fierce storm swept through the island. It was the strongest wind the engines had ever known. It blustered and blew. The wind howled down the tracks and tore down the trees. It ripped off roofs and flattened fences. It even blew Gordon's tent away. Bother, puffed Gordon. The other engines were glad to be tucked up for the night, but they were worried. I hope we're safe in here, Percy shivered. The wind blew all night long. The Sodor suspension bridge twisted and shook in the gale. Then there was trouble. The next morning, when Thomas puffed out of the sheds, he saw that the storm had done lots of damage. Bust my buffers, he cried. Look what the wind has done. Thomas puffed across the island. He could see the storm damage all around him. The airport building site was a complete mess. But when Thomas saw that the Sodor suspension bridge had collapsed, he felt worse than ever. That morning, the Fat Controller came to see the engine. He was very upset. The storm has done a great deal of damage, he said sadly. We must try to mend things or we won't have any holiday makers. Yes, sir, puffed the engines. Everyone will have to work extra hard, the Fat Controller added. Otherwise, we won't be able to open the airport. Will Tidmouth sheds be mended too? Peeped Percy. Only after you have finished all the other jobs, the Fat Controller said firmly. There are lots of jobs to be done. Can you help the Fat Controller decide where each engine should go? Harvey has his crane arm. Edward and Henry have trucks full of bricks and timber. And Thomas has his passenger carriages, Annie and Clarabel. These tracks are blocked by fallen trees. Which engine do you think can help? Edward and Henry? No. Trucks full of bricks and timber won't move fallen trees. What about Thomas? No. Passenger carriages won't move fallen trees either. What about Harvey? Yes, Harvey's crane arm will be perfect for moving fallen trees. Thank you, Harvey. But look at the airport terminal. These buildings will need to be repaired with bricks and timber. Which engine could help? Thomas? No, there are no bricks and timber in Annie and Clarabel. Do you think Edward and Henry can help? Yes, that's right. Edward and Henry have lots of bricks and timber. Thank you, Edward and Henry. These workmen need to get to the Sodor suspension bridge. Which engine do you think can help them? What about Thomas? Yes! The workmen can climb aboard Annie and Clarabelle, then Thomas can take them to the suspension bridge. Thank you, Thomas. And thank you, everyone.